Hello, welcome to Library Connection. I'm Mandy Cantrell, Youth Services Director at the B.B. Comer Library here in Sylacauga. Before I get started, I want to thank TV47 and Robert especially for all they do to help us put on this program. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Ted Spears, who is the chairman of the Marble Festival Committee here. And I know, thank you for joining me today.
In spite of the cold weather, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be inside anyway.
Yes, yes. Well, this year, Marble Festival 2020 had to be canceled, and that was very sad. We were very excited, as we are every year, for the events that go on during that. But you quickly came up with a plan B, is that correct?
Yeah, it was a desperation plan, but it was a plan B. It was a real disappointment to me personally, and to all of the people of the Marble Festival and the sculptors that we had already been into contact with. And so we'd done most of our advertising. We'd spent a great deal of money for advertising and brochures and all that. And so we just had to eat that.
It was just about a month before it was supposed to begin, wasn't it?
Yeah, about a month before it began. And we kept getting mixed signals from the people in Italy. They initially said, it's not a problem here. I checked with them 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And then on one of my emails to Valentina, I said, well, we get some crazy messages. She said, Florence is really having some problems. It is really tough there. Yeah. But here in Pietrasanta, we're okay. So our man is going to come, and we had Francesco Gazzi, the sculptor from Italy, Pietrasanta, who was going to be with us. And I'd already communicated with him, and we had his passports fixed, and we had the rental cars lined up, and the hotel reservations made for him, and the airline reservations, and zilch.
Oh, man.
We just had to cancel it.
I will tell, for those of you that don't know, the Marble Festival every year is put on by the Sylacauga Arts Council with a lot of help from the State Arts Council, things like that. An Italian sculptor comes to Sylacauga to sculpt a beautiful piece, and sculptors from all over the country, even all over the world, come.
Absolutely. We've had sculptors from foreign countries. We've had sculptors from almost every state in the 48 contiguous states, and it's been wonderful. But I know when I called Elliot Knight, who's the head of the State Arts Council, and told him that we had to cancel, as we were talking, he said, it's a shame that we don't have a plan B. He said, we would rather see you all do something. And I said, well, it's strange that you mentioned that. I have a project that I've been thinking about in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. And he said, well, let me hear what it is. And I said, well, you know that Moretti lived here and owned a quarry here. Yes. And so he was a resident of Sylacauga. Geneva Mercer lived here for a 4 or 5 year period with them. And I went to church here, and they lived here. And somehow I know the Sylacauga connection to these 2 great people has been forgotten. And what I wanted to do is maybe commission a bust of each one of them. Yes. And also get Ruth Cook to do an abbreviated history of each one, and do it in separate pamphlets, and make these available to all the schools in the area and the libraries, throughout the state, of wherever we can ship them. And he said, I like that. He said, we'll send you some forms. And it'll be very brief, and based on what you told me, we can go with Plan B.
Wonderful.
I said, well, that's wonderful. And so I immediately talked with Ruth to make sure that she was on board with us. Now,
Ruth Cook, she deserves a little moment here. Certainly, she has written the book Magic in Stone, which is the history of Sylacauga marble.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful, but we have it for sale at the library. It is a wonderful copy. I read it, learned lots of things I didn't know. So
I think that it's an interesting book in that sense, that people who've been related to the marble industry, have been in Sylacauga all their life, learn things from that book that they had never thought of or heard of. And so she just did a marvelous job. And she jumped right on the thing when we got started. And I told her, I said, I really have wondered why the state hasn't recognized Geneva Mercer more than they have.
Right.
And I said, and I know that they don't realize that she lived here with the Morettis.
That's right here in
two
Sylacauga.
different occasions. And so we got all that squared away, and then I contacted Frank Murphy and talked with him and convinced him that this would be a wonderful thing for his hometown for him to do Geneva Mercer. And then we shipped him all the pictures we had of Geneva and helped him. Then we talked to Krager about doing Moretti, and we got them started, and we spent the rest of the summer. Gary Greer with Swin Communications did the printing
the brochure,
for us, the brochure, the pamphlets. And we were back and forth working and looking at pictures to include and pictures not to include, and writing and rewriting. So we were very busy, and we had a deadline of August 31st to do all of this.
Goodness.
And we were able to meet the deadline with one or two exceptions, but what I was really up against was at the end of the financial calendar year with the State Arts Council was at the end of September. So we only had the whole month. You have to get your evaluation in within that framework, and then all of a sudden they changed that because of the problems that coronavirus did for them.
Yes.
They moved ours up 2 weeks. And so we had to get everything done by September the 15th.
Oh, goodness.
And so that really pushed us, but we were with their help, and Elliot was very nice, and then Amy Jenkins, who's the artist, the field artist rep that we worked with, was just very helpful. But that was a challenge in itself, that they closed down, sent everybody home to work virtual, and that, I didn't realize, but people working for the State Arts Council live all over the state, apparently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so it was extremely difficult to communicate.
Yes.
And get questions answered and make sure we were on the same page with them.
I don't think people may not understand the Marble Festival is funded a lot by grants. Grant from the State Arts Council, and as with all grants, the money has to be accounted for in a certain time period. So that's why the rush there.
Yeah, and you want to keep it legal and make sure that you accomplish all this.
Absolutely.
And of course, the thing in the back of my mind was that we wanted to make people aware of Geneva Mercer and her contact with Sylacauga. And we wanted them to understand, because a lot of people didn't even know Sylacauga had marble.
Right.
And so I want them to understand that Giuseppe Moretti, who was one of a world famous sculptor, owned a quarry here in Sylacauga, and he sculpted here. And the unique way that Sylacauga marble got handled here, like from the pamphlet, the promoter and pioneer of Sylacauga marble, goes back to 1904 when he was in Birmingham visiting the people with the steel company there, who was dickering with him about the Vulcan.
Yes.
And so he walked into the man's office, the head of the company, and he had an open Bible on his desk made of marble. And Moretti was just fascinated with that, because coming from Pietrasanta and sculpting all over Europe, he said, that's the most beautiful piece of marble that I've seen. And so he made him, or enticed him and threatened, whatever he did, to bring him down to Sylacauga to see this. And then in one of the trips, he was able to get a piece of marble he was going to carry with him that he carved the head of Christ with. And so that was in 1904. And so the rest of it's history. That Moretti was he actually lived. He was in Talladega County twice. He was at what they call the Blue Marble Quarry up between here and Talladega, and he was at Monte Pinto, the Pine that they called it. And they had a quarry there, and he had some people from Italy to come over and all, and they were just investing and doing all exciting things. Moretti was a great sculptor, but he was a poor businessman. He bought a lot of stock in the Atlanta-Nashville Railroad that was being built at that time, and it went belly up, and he lost everything.
Oh,
and so he had to start all over, and then later he was back in Alabama and back in Sylacauga, and that's when he bought the quarry, and they lived here in the early 20s and up to about 25 when they went back to Italy.
Right. We're going to pause for a minute. We've still got a lot to talk about. We're going to pause for a minute for a commercial break.
Home making you sick? Moisture and unsafe air from your crawl space can infiltrate your home, causing health hazards and high utility bills. Ox Foundation Solutions can remedy any mold or mildew problem in your home. It's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong. Get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Falling to save at Tony Serra for Sylacauga.
Keep more cash for back to school with 0% APR financing for up to 72 months and up to $13,000 off MSRP on new Ford trucks. Plus, we've got guaranteed credit approval and up to $4,000 over KBB value for your trade when you upgrade to a new Ford.
The right people, a better customer experience, and nobody beats our bottom line price. Nobody.
Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Marble City Pharmacy.
Hi, welcome back to Library Connection. I'm talking with Dr. Ted Spears, the chairman of the Marble Festival Committee, and we're talking about Marble Festival 2020, which was canceled, but this is Plan B. I'll tell you what, we have several pictures from the booklets here. Can we look through those and let you kind of explain those? This is Geneva Mercer, who was Giuseppe Moretti's apprentice for years. Isn't that correct?
Yes. This picture that you're looking at was is called Joyous Boy. She got that on a commission from one of the Barrett family in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And they had they had her to do a marble thing of their son to put into their garden, and she commissioned that's one of her most famous pieces and most popular pieces, and. It is now in the Phillips Conservatory there in Pittsburgh, and a lot of people in Alabama don't know, but when we communicated with the people in Pittsburgh, everybody up there in the art world knows about Geneva Mercer.
Oh, goodness.
And they've never heard of Sylacauga, and some of them never heard of Alabama, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Goodness.
This is another thing, we wanted to put that to rest, that, hey, she was here, she was ours.
She was.
Had post office box here, she went to church here, she went to the movies. I guess they had movies back in 1920. But
She's actually is she from Alabama? I'm trying to remember now.
You know, she was born in a little small community just outside of Demopolis.
Okay.
And went on to, went to public school, then went on to Livingston State Normal College for women. And that's where she encountered Julia Tutwiler. Miss Tutwiler was the president of Livingston College, and she saw the work that Geneva was doing and had done, and she made an appointment. She knew that Moretti was going to be in Birmingham speaking to the Chamber of Commerce there, and she carried all of her stuff in Geneva with her to introduce them and showed them the work. And on the spot, after he saw what kind of work, he offered her Geneva an apprenticeship to study under him and go back to Italy and Europe and places in the north, in Boston, New York, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, wherever, and eventually Cuba. And so that was giant leap. A little girl in a rural area
Right. She
of
was
West Alabama.
young, 18 or 20,
Yeah,
I believe. and-
just out of college or whatever the age was. And so did such a wonderful job that she spent the rest of her life with the Morettis. And the Morettis didn't have any children, and so apparently they felt like that Geneva was their only daughter, and
Like a
so they
daughter.
kept her engulfed in the marble, and she followed them all over the world. They were in Cuba, they were in Florence, they were in Germany, France, all over Italy, and she turned out to be an outstanding sculptress in her own right. And yet I know I talked to people within the State Department, and they had never heard of Geneva Mercer until Ruth Cook did one of her programs there
Yes.
related to the Sylacauga Marble book. And I had one of the people there said that there was 3 or 4 people in the audience. I'm talking about people who work in the arts and the history world, and the Department of Education and Archives and History, as well as the Arts Council, and they'd never heard of Geneva Mercer.
Goodness.
And
Well, we can see a few of her pieces now.
yeah,
Is
this
it's from
piece here
Cuba?
is beautiful. She was with Moretti in Cuba when they did the big thing there in the kind of a Colosseum-like atmosphere, and they had numerous pieces similar to this, as well as smaller pieces on the outside of the sculpture.
There's
and-
Frank Murphy.
Yeah, Frank Murphy, as everybody knows, is an outstanding oil painter, a visual artist, and I just hate him because he's got all that talented paint and he's done all the wonderful things. And look what a beautiful job he did with Geneva Mercer. And he was just thrilled with the commission to do that. And in a spiritual sense, he said he felt like, especially when he was doing her hair,
Yes.
that she was standing over his shoulder, making a smiling face or
Little
frowns.
suggestions.
So he said he was very conscious of her, and so it was a wonderful experience for him and a wonderful experience for us. And as you know, this is in the library on a permanent basis.
Yes,
and,
it is.
Part of the an array of beautiful sculpture that we have that is a result of the Sylacauga Marble Festival. And so we were just really thrilled that we were able to do that for Geneva. And the first thing I did, I sent copies of this pamphlet to the Geneva Museum in Demopolis.
Oh,
and
goodness,
so that
okay.
they have copies of it, and I told them we would get them additional copies as we had, and I informed them we were putting them in all the schools in the area.
Right.
And so we've covered Clay County and Coosa County and Talladega County, and we're still mailing them to other libraries and other museums in the area. So that it's easy to say we're going to put them in all the libraries, but it's the second thing to do it because it's a tremendous amount of time. You got to get the
Yes.
addresses, you got to pack it, and you got to send it, and so we're still doing it.
These are wonderful and full of lots of good information. We're going to pause for another commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Home making you sick? Moisture and unsafe air from your crawl space can infiltrate your home, causing health hazards and high utility bills. Ox Foundation Solutions can remedy any mold or mildew problem in your home. It's time to get strong. How strong? Ox Strong. Get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Falling to save at Tony Serra Ford of Sylacauga.
Keep more cash for back to school with 0% APR financing for up to 72 months and up to $13,000 off MSRP on new Ford trucks. Plus, we've got guaranteed credit approval and up to $4,000 over KBB value for your trade when you upgrade to a new Ford.
The right people, a better customer experience, and nobody beats our bottom line price. Nobody.
Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm talking with Dr. Ted Spears, Chairman of the Marble Festival Committee. We're talking about Marble Festival 2020 Plan B. We've talked about Geneva Mercer now, and I've got some slides of Giuseppe Moretti, the sculpture that Cregar Brown did.
Now, this is the head of Christ. This is the piece that introduced itself to Moretti when he became his first trip to Sylacauga. And he carried away this piece, and this is the head of Christ, and it was so inspirational and so spiritual that he carried this piece with him wherever he went. When they moved from here to Boston, or from Boston to Pittsburgh, from Pittsburgh to New York, to Europe, he carried it with him. And he talked to his wife in later life, and he was getting older and in frail health. He said, this piece really belongs in Alabama because of the Sylacauga marble and the fact we live there. This is a picture of the Morettis in Milan when they went there in, 1925. And I was just thinking about Livingston, Alabama, and Demopolis, Alabama, comparison to Milan and Rome and Paris and all the places that she was able to go. And as Moretti, this is very distinguished with him with a model of the Vulcan. And this is just an international piece that everybody knows about that. And these are statues. This is a Catholic priest in Birmingham that is in Lane Park. If you've ever been there, this is one of the most inspirational. This is a delight. This is the home that Moretti built for Dorothea and Geneva when he was in Sylacauga. This was out at the quarry. And we have this picture. Judy Hartsfield painted this from a magazine picture that we, a newspaper picture. And you closer on the outside, there's little pieces of marble at the entrance and the side and in the yard. It had kind of a marble sculpture garden out there, right on the edge of the quarry. And this piece is very historical because there was a stream by there. They had a little garden there that Dorothea Moretti and Geneva worked on, and they had gardens wherever they went, but they had flowers and shrubs and all the different things. And they said it was the most wonderful thing to walk along a brook or a small creek out there beside the house. And so that was just really beautiful. And this is the sculptor Moretti that Cregar Brown did. And we have them sitting side to side in the area that and
in the library,
in the library, and this is an arena that I won't mention, but Tracy's had some beautiful ideas, and she's making a special thing, but that's another program, and that's one for you all to do without me. But I'm just really thrilled and fascinated with what that's going to turn into. So, but that's something to look forward to.
So Cregar did Giuseppe Moretti, and Cregar is our local sculptor here. He's done Sylacauga Merging, and then Once Upon a Time, the piece on our front lawn at the library. Very talented, both he and Frank Murphy. So wonderful to have them associated with us.
That was the beauty. We had two sculptors who, from the historical thing, Moretti and Mercer, and then two sculptors who were residents also of Sylacauga. We already mentioned Frank, and Cregar was born in the Birmingham area, Vestavia, Hoover, that particular area. And so I thought it was have more meaning in a historical sense if we had Alabama represented historically, and then the sculptors also from Sylacauga, and both sculptors lived in and worked and sculpted in Sylacauga, as did Mercer and Moretti.
That's a great little connection there.
That was a connection that I was looking for, and we were able to to do that with a lot of help, a lot of your help, the library and Tracy and all the girls and Mike. So I don't want to leave him out.
No, he does a lot of moving things around. Well, these are wonderful, and I'm so glad they've gone to the schools. You know, part of my connection with the Marble Festival is giving tours to children, and I always want, I want all of us to know, but I want our children especially to know where they come from and what's happened here. That we have beautiful marble, we have sculptors from here. It's really important to know where you live.
I think we'll have enough of these that we can give you a few of these for these tours that you're doing, especially the school tours.
Yes, yes.
So we don't want to keep them in a box. We want to put them in little hands that people can find out that Sylacauga is truly the Marble City.
That is true. That's true. Well, next year, Marble Festival 2021. What do you think?
Well, we've already developed, Shirley usually writes our plans, and we've already developed a plan and submitted it to the State Arts Council.
Good.
And we've talked with them, and we're going with the sculpting, and we're going to do more and better advertising and get the people in here. Yeah. But in the event that the coronavirus is not controlled, that we have to cancel it, we submitted a Plan B along with the regular plan. And so we've got a Plan B, and what that amounts to is we're going to expand the kind of thing that we did with Mercer and Moretti, and move some little competitive element into it, and allow the sculptors, even if they have to do it remotely, we're going to have a plan in which everything would come together, and we'd pick the best pieces, and those pieces would be for sale or for donation to the library for the collection.
Wonderful.
So there's a lot of inroads and a lot of different things that we're still working on, but we made the Plan B broad enough that we could do everything to include doing the tango or marching to band music.
Well, COVID made us all be very creative in our plans and find a way to do things. Well, I do want you all to come into the library. As you come in on the right, there is an area where these two sculptures are, the Mercer and Moretti, and some of the others. Just a little gallery area to see the marble. And we look for more to come every year. We have all the pieces from the past, and beautiful. Just beautiful in our library, I think. I'd love for you to come in and get a copy of Ruth Cook's book, Magic in Stone, the Sylacauga Marble History. You will learn a lot of Sylacauga history and a lot of history about the marble. So even those of you that live here will learn some things you did not know before. And, we are out of time, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm just excited to talk about what we've done and what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Library Connection.